next news. Breaking news from the White House.
President Trump just dropped another bombshell that has the internet in total meltdown. Speaking about new icebreakers under construction, he said he's going to be here in 2028 and maybe even 2032 as well. Supporters are laughing and posting memes while critics are already screaming about the Constitution and democracy itself, but this is no accident. The president knows exactly how to seize the spotlight and keep every conversation centered on the fight for America's future. But what does this really signal about the battles ahead in voter integrity and power? See, this moment cuts into the heart of who controls our elections, who counts in our republic. Democrats are framing basic voter ID laws and the Save America Act as nothing short of Jim Crow 2.0 and racial oppression. They're calling for athletes now to boycott Southern schools and accusing Republicans of stripping minority voices. At the same time, voices on the left openly talk about breaking the spirit of their political opponents. These are not normal policy disagreements. They reveal a desperate scramble to keep weak election systems in place rather than win fair fights at the ballot box. The stakes are nothing less than whether future elections remain secure and decided by citizens or tilted by chaos and division. And some breaking news on the critical minerals front tonight. This supply chain, it hits right as we face real threats to our national strength. SAGA metals trading as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada is now emerging as a major story in the race to secure materials tied directly to national defense. In less than 6 months, SAGA has moved with unusual speed, and last week the company, they announced a 100% drill success rate across all 57 holes at its radar project, and they finished ahead of schedule. That matters because radar is being positioned as a potential host for critical minerals essential to our defense and industrial future. Check out the in-depth interview with the CEO on this topic I did over the weekend. You can check the exclusive briefing link below, but it's only for Next News viewers. Now, this kind of American energy and speed is exactly what we need more of right now. And while the president keeps dominating every headline, the real war is raging underneath. Democrats are turning redistricting fights and voter security bills into full-blown racial panic and boycott calls. Their rhetoric is heating up fast and exposing just how little that they trust the voters to decide fairly. So here's President Trump. Keeps telling everyone he's going to serve one more term in office for a reason. Listen to this.
Finland, they make icebreakers. They make the best icebreakers. We're going to learn everything we can learn. We're going to shortly make them ourselves. But we're making, right now, currently under construction, we have 11 beautiful. And I said, come on, when's the first one coming? They said, in 28. I said, I'm going to be here in 28. Maybe I'll be here in 32, too. I don't know. Maybe I will. But I'm going to be here in 28. And I'll tell you, I said, that's great because I'm going to be there at the dedication. They have been trying to get icebreakers for years and years. And no
President Trump trolling. He confirmed he'll be back in 2028. Democrats, though, lashing out at the southern states over redistricting, calling it Jim Crow tactics. Hakeem Jeffries, dime store Obama, Timo Obama, urges athletes to boycott southern schools over GOP redistricting.
An honor to stand with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, as well as former athletes committed to this cause in getting this egregious situation turned around. This is an unprecedented moment featuring an unprecedented attack on black political representation, and therefore it requires an unprecedented response.
That's right.
We are here standing in solidarity with the NAACP and its call for athletes to boycott institutions within the SEC that belong to states that have unleashed these Jim Crow-like racially oppressive tactics, which is unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And we believe that the silence of these institutions is complicity.
That's right.
And we will not stand for it.
Oh, Hakeem, keep trying. Keep trying. He wants athletes to punish the SEC schools. Now Chuck Schumer is going after the Save America Act, blaming it an evil trio. What does that even mean?
In Congress, Trump's MAGA majorities keep pushing the SAVE Act, which we know would disenfranchise tens of millions of voters. With the SAVE Act, Republicans would purge millions of American citizens from the voter rolls through a screening algorithm designed by none other than the trio, the evil trio of Trump, Vogt, and Musk in their Doge squad. And as I've been saying for months, I started saying this months ago, it's Jim Crow 2.0.
The evil trio. So Schumer calling voter ID Jim Crow 2.0, Trump, Vance, and Musk. Senator Mike Lee says to believe Democrats when they talk about breaking conservative spirits. When radical leftists threaten to break your spirits, believe them. He calls these remarks from Timu Obama chilling.
I guess part of how we as House Democrats view this moment, either MAGA extremists are going to break the country or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We will defeat them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit because of the extremism that's being unleashed on the American people. That's completely and totally unacceptable.
You mean the extremism that the Southern Poverty Law Center props up? Mike Lee warns the left wants to crush MAGA's will. Now the NAACP and Congressional Black Caucus are pushing black athletes to boycott Southern programs. NAACP top Democrat leaders, including Congressional Black Caucus, Hakeem Jeffries, are now openly calling for black student athletes to boycott SEC and Southern sports programs. Really? A lot of those students, they rely on those programs so that they can advance in their sports careers. So you're asking them to just forego their dream of being in a high-paying sports job? Yeah. Okay, Hakeem.
Athletes and fans to boycott college sports programs in the South. This in response to red state redistricting.
Ridiculous. Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington with the details. Good morning, Griff.
Yeah, good morning, fellas. Hey, so much for sports transcending politics because the Congressional Black Caucus and the NAACP are now urging black college athletes to boycott state schools in southern states. Take a look here. You can see in the list, it's particularly SEC programs, and they're doing it over GOP-led gerrymandering of congressional maps following that Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act, with the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries leading the charge.
In the absence of fairness as it relates to black political representation, there should be no athletic participation as it relates to institutions that are housed in states that are experiencing a dramatic return to racially oppressive Jim Crow-like tactics.
The NAACP issuing a statement saying the NAACP will not watch the same institutions that depend on black athletic prowess to fill their stadiums and their bank accounts remain silent while their states strip black communities of their voices. Now, this so-called out-of-bounds campaign targets athletic programs that generate over $100 million annually, and it's pushing athletes to delay commitments and coaches and athletic directors to take a public stance. Jack Brewer had this reaction earlier this morning.
I think this is ridiculous. I mean, you see them pandering to race, and you're putting into these young black boys' minds that they're victims.
They should forego their careers. Democrats turning college sports into a political weapon over GOP maps. Bernie Sanders claims billionaires forced a Supreme Court ruling that ended racial gerrymandering.
I think it is very clear this whole gerrymandering nonsense began with Trump in Texas, etc. Voting Rights Act. You know, a Supreme Court that the billionaires put into place.
Bernie. He blames billionaires for killing racial gerrymandering. Jasmine Crockett, though, she's over there in the committee ranting that Republicans are dragging the country back to Jim Crow. It's good to know that she's no longer going to be in Congress, so we don't have much more time to listen to this one.
We haven't had one hearing on white supremacy. Yet when we look at things like the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the 9 worshipers who were murdered at the Mother Emanuel AME Church, the 23 people murdered in 2019 during the shooting at Walmart in El Paso, the 10 people murdered during the 2022 shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. All of these were murdered by white supremacists who are empowered by the Republican Party's racist rhetoric and policies. This is the same party that wants to drag us back to the Jim Crow era. Some say that there aren't poll taxes, and I guess it's because they're not listing the amount of money. But when you tell somebody that they've got to go and pay for something, say, like a passport that costs over $100 in order to be able to vote, that looks like a poll tax to me. Some of y'all need to read up on your history books, the very same ones that the Republicans have decided that people should not hear about, because you don't want real history taught in our schools because you're afraid that it's going to hurt people's feelings to know that their ancestors were so savage that they would enslave black folk. You don't want them to understand why the 14th Amendment mattered then and it matters today. You don't want them to understand that when they draw these racist lines and tell black folk that they shouldn't have representation in this country, that it is against the Constitution. You want them to be ignorant so that they can sit up here and be your token for your mission.
Has expired.
Thank you, Jim
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yield because you've done run out of time.
Thank you for that. Thank you for shutting her up. It blows my mind that these Congress people, like Jasmine Crockett, Hakeem Jeffries, are calling this racist when these districts were literally drawn along racial lines. I mean, they literally segregated congressional districts based on race. And that's why the Supreme Court said, nope, not going to happen. Because it's racist. Unbelievable. So the peak revelation is very simple. Democrats cannot win by building a stronger message, so they attack the rules themselves. From Schumer slamming voter ID to Jeffries pushing athlete boycotts to Bernie blaming billionaires for fair maps, the pattern is clear. They want power locked in through weak systems and racial division rather than open competition. President Trump stands in the center laughing at the chaos because he knows secure elections favor people who love this country. So tonight proves once again that America First leadership keeps winning the narrative, while the other side melts down into panic and division. Voter integrity and fair maps are not suppression. They are the foundation of real democracy. So share this report everywhere. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think these boycott threats will backfire on the Democrats? And if you haven't done so, make sure you do. Join the thousands of patriots who've already texted the word raw feed to 844-840-4963. They're already bypassing the algorithm suppression of the Next News Network. They're already getting notifications that YouTube never sends. They're already getting direct messages from me to their phone, and I want to make sure you get it too. And check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. We're taking the fight straight to the finish line, and the future belongs to those who stand strong for America.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.